Okay, I believe that means that we're live. So hi everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Crazy Talk. So Crazy Talk is a Facebook Live show where we talk about all things mental health related. We talk about things with a little bit of irreverence, a little bit of sass, because that's kind of how we are. So in today's episode, my name's Lee. I guess I should start with that. In today's episode, we're going to talk about engaging youth in your community. So if you are maybe a community leader or someone who works with youth and you have questions about how do we engage youth in our community, or how do I engage specifically Indigenous youth in my community, and that's really important to me, but how do I do it? Then you are going to love this episode. So you're going to love today's show because today's guest is Cliff Valentine. Yay! Hi, Cliff.
Hey, everybody. Hey, how's it going?
So today... it's going great, especially because, you're here. So Cliff is joining us all the way from beautiful Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Beautiful, and my guess is slightly chilly, Prince Albert, Saskatchewan.
Yes.
And Cliff, you were recently named one of the Center for Addiction and Mental Health's 150 difference makers in mental health. So congratulations.
Well, thank you,
really
and
exciting.
Congratulations to yourself as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So for those of you who are watching, who are just tuning in, let you in on a little bit of a secret, which is that Cliff and I actually know each other. We had the great pleasure of meeting each other at the, I'm going to get this title wrong, International Association of Youth Mental Health Conference in Dublin, Ireland. Do you think I got that name right, Cliff?
Close enough.
Close enough. That's the spirit. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going for. So we, met in Dublin, even though we're both from Canada. What are the odds? And Cliff is a mental health advocate extraordinaire. So I'm really excited to have you on the show, Cliff, today.
Extraordinaire. I'm excited to be.
Extraordinaire, yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that, but okay.
Too humble, Cliff. You're too humble. So I guess just to start off with, for the people who are tuning in, and I'm seeing a couple of people tuning in now, do you want to tell us a bit about the project that you're involved in and why you got involved in the projects that you're involved in right now?
So I'm involved in the Access Open Minds project, which is a 5-year research project looking at transforming youth mental health services. So pretty much accessing better services. But one thing that they strive on is that it's patient-oriented research. And so with ours is working with youth 11 to 25. And so it's more of like, how do you want to see your services developed? How do you want to improve them? So having them at the forefront of the work that we do. How did I get involved? It was more of like, all right, we need somebody from the community that has their lived experience with mental health issues. So, and then I got a phone call and I was like, all right, Cliff, you're coming to this meeting a few months later. Okay, you're going to the network meeting, but what do I need to know? So it's more of trying to just like getting kind of thrown into the fire of like, what is mental health?
Yeah, but I mean, so you could have said no when someone called you and said, go to this meeting. Like, what drove you, I guess, to be like, yeah, this is something I want to be involved in. This is something that, that I'm passionate about, or something that I'm willing to be involved in. What was the motivation there?
Well, for me, it's like I always drive on my experience of like going through anxiety, depression, and recovering gambling addict. And I always wanted to help people, even from a younger age. I always wanted to like, where can I help? How can I help? I want to do what I can. I know for getting into this is just like, I don't necessarily want to talk about my mental health, but I want to keep an open mind, but an open ear to what's like, what are you guys trying to do? Because my life, I always try to like take most opportunities that come my way if I really, enjoy them.
All right, fabulous. So you mentioned how the Access Project is a lot about kind of patient-oriented and really working with youth aged 11 and 25. Why do you think, and I obviously have my own opinions about this, but why do you think it's important for youth, and especially for Indigenous youth, to be involved in their own mental health?
For me, I think that it's really important because, we talk about a lot of like services that are being developed for youth, but it's never like developed with the youth. So a lot of organizations, a lot of other things don't seem kind of drive right. It was like, okay, why aren't we seeing enough youth? Why are we not seeing enough people coming into our organizations? Why are not we seeing enough clients, you know? And yeah.
Is that something that was like, I know in my own personal experience, I got really lucky in terms of a lot of the mental health services I accessed were good, although they weren't necessarily youth focused. In your experience, is that kind of a problem with maybe the services you may have accessed or the services someone you know may have accessed really not being aligned with kind of that youth vision, I guess?
Yeah. I guess for my case, it was a little bit more easier to get those services because I was at a school. I actually moved away from the community, and later they hooked me up with a counselor. And so I ended up staying with that counselor for 8 years. So in the Access Open Minds, it's continuum of care beyond the age of 18. And she was actually practicing it before we even kind of thought about this before. So I was probably like, I think 20 when we actually went our own ways. And so it was something that she didn't have to do, but she felt that it was like to kind of transition me into adulthood.
Yeah, and I know that definitely doesn't happen for a lot of people. A lot of people, it's, you know, you're in the youth system and maybe things are going really great for you in the youth system, but then you turn 18 and it's like, well, it was nice knowing you. You have to transition to the adult system now, and that's where a lot of people kind of fall through the cracks, right?
Yeah, and I hear a lot of stories about that. It's just like, yeah, they can't help me because I'm too old, you know, and you know, it's just like, okay, well, now I'm basically starting at square one. Now where do I seek my services?
Yeah. And you kind of have to restart that whole process. And that process is not an easy one. Yeah. So we've talked about why it's important to engage youth. You know, it's important to engage youth and important to engage Indigenous youth in their own mental health. But how do we do that? So for the people who are tuning in who might be thinking, yeah, this is something I want to do in my community. I really want to engage youth in their own mental health, but I don't know how to do that. Do you have any tips for us?
I kind of just make it up as I go along. So I know for us, I always looked at like, what is the bigger picture of Access Open Minds? You know, having youth involved every step of the way. And for us, what we do in our the community and the project is having the youth involved in every step that we're doing. So we developed our youth space together. We're developing programs together. Who do they want to see? And but kind of like an example is more of like the way we kind of do it is just having them involved. But what does that look like? Because that's not an easy process to have them involved every step of the way and to authentically engage with them. So it's a lot of it is more of building relationships with the youth. You know, seeing where they're at, you know, talking like, hey, did you watch this one anime? You know, or just something being more like where they're at. It was good for me because I always like anime, and so I work with one of the youth that, you know, likes anime too. So, and then there's all these like different like because I used to work in a Galaxy Cineplex, so I always hung out with a lot of the high school students. So they always tell me like tips and things that they're talking about and jokes and stuff like that. So kind of learned a lot from the youth of just being like, hey, you know, what makes you laugh? Hey, what are you interested in, kind of thing. So it's just being more at their level.
Yeah, being with them, being present. I really like one of the things that you said in terms of, you talked about youth engagement and then you paused and you said authentic youth engagement. So what do you think the difference is between, I guess, youth engagement and that authentic youth engagement? Like, is there a gap there that maybe some people are falling into?
I feel like, you know, I haven't been in this space for very long, you know, in the last 3 years of being involved in this work. But from what I see, it's more of like, I see a lot of tokenizing. It's more of like, oh, that person's youth. Oh, they should get involved in this. You know, they know about this or whatever. And it's just like, you know, it's great that they're getting that platform, but at the same time, it's just like, have you picked the right persons or people? Or are they, you know, do they actually want to be involved in this? Or are you just picking them just to pick them, kind of thing? And for like authentic youth engagement is like, you know, what we're doing now in the community is we have a weekly, we call it the youth wellness group. And so it's just like, okay, 3 o'clock, we're having our meeting. If you want to be a part of this project, just show up to the meetings. It'll be fine. And, it's just like, we've lost a lot of members because a lot have graduated, a lot are out of the community now. But we still have like a strong 10 group of youth that just want to be part of this project through like having them build the youth space. And, it's just like, again, being at their level and really asking and listening, just not to reply. It's more of listening to what's going on within their lives.
Yeah. And I feel like with a lot of projects I've been involved with as a youth, kind of that idea of listening to reply or listening to see how what I say can fit into the framework they've already decided on. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not really saying, what do you think? They're saying, can we get you to say something that will then fit within this thing we've already decided on? Is that a problem that you've seen in maybe other projects, or is there a way around that problem?
I don't know if I think the biggest thing is nobody takes enough time. That's one of the barriers into actually doing authentic youth engagement is time. And not a lot of people have time because, deadlines, dates, and, things that are, have to get done. And I understand that. I get it that, funding's always tied to deadlines, times, reports, data collection, all that kind of stuff, right? And, yeah, it's just, I'm sorry, I forgot the question. I kind of started rambling.
We were just talking about kind of the barriers and the way that we ask youth for their input and then maybe don't necessarily listen to it because we already have this like predetermined destination in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you said about time, because I know in my experience that's definitely been the case for a lot of things. It's like, we would love to do authentic youth engagement, but this is due, next month. So we've only had time to wrangle these 3 youth, and the 3 youth they wrangle are usually the 3 youth that are involved in everything, right? Like you get the same players over and over and over again, kind of involved in all of the different subjects and all the different topics. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the successes is actually getting them to believe in the work that we're doing through that authentic youth engagement. Again, having a sit down with them, just being in the same space as them and just laughing, and then you can slowly start developing that relationship and then saying, oh, hey, this is what we're part of. Our focus is mental health, but we're looking at like strength-based. So it's like, you're the driver. So what do you guys want to see happen within this project in the community?
Yeah. And I've heard you mention that like a couple times on Facebook, since we're friends on Facebook. I've seen you mention that phrase strength-based a couple of times. Can you tell me more about like what that is?
The way I see strength-based and the way I was been told, it's more of like, okay, I'm going to give you some tools, and it's your decision if you want to take those tools and use them. So if it's like, say we're doing a workshop, and just giving them information and, again, it's all that wellness. So it's more of like, here's some information about how to work with, let's say, anxiety or, something like that. And it's just like, if you have a problem, it's okay to talk about that. And it's more of like giving them that power to make their voice be heard, because we want to hear their voice.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love that. Giving them the power for their voice to be heard and really wanting to hear their voice. Because I think a lot of organizations or a lot of individuals even are afraid to engage youth because they're afraid of what the youth are going to say, right? They might not, they might not say exactly what they want them to say, or there's kind of this fear around, oh no, what if, they don't like what we're doing, or we're gonna have to start from scratch, or all of these various things.
Yeah, and just an example of like what I think of like strength based is that we had a youth come into he's kind of a regular now, and what I do, if we're gonna eat together, we're gonna clean together. So we'll usually provide them with a meal. Some nights if we have funds around. And so we're getting them to do dishes, and this one youth, he was like, "Oh yeah, I want to do the dishes," kind of thing. All right, go start on them. And then and he's doing them, and then I look over and I was like, I don't think he knows how to do the dishes. So I go over and it's like, hey, you know how to do dishes? No. All right, I'm gonna show you. So I showed him how like I would do it, and then I kind of just let him go. And then like a month later, his mom messaged me saying, "Oh, Raymond, I shouldn't be saying names. So and so finally did the dishes, and that's the first time he did dishes at his place." And so I was just like, I was like so pumped about that. And then his buddy was he was like throwing away the garbage, but he didn't know how to tie the garbage. And it's like, so I asked him, he's like, "You know how to tie?" And he's like, "No, it's okay. I'm going to show you. Go grab your shoes. We're going to show you how to tie your shoes." And to me, that was important to teach him that, because when I was younger, there was a teacher, which is still a teacher at the school. She had showed me how to do my shoes, and that was so important to me. So it was really important that I taught this youth how to tie his shoes.
Oh yeah, and that's you've kept that cycle going where someone helps you and then you just turn around and help someone else, which I think is really amazing and really incredible. Yeah. So you touched on or you brought up, I guess, teachers, which I think is really important because I work in schools a lot of the time. I go around to schools and I talk about my own experience living with mental health issues. And so I do work a lot with teachers and other people in the schools. So if there was one thing you wanted maybe teachers specifically to know about engaging youth, or maybe even specifically about engaging Indigenous youth in their communities, what would that be? Like, what do you wish teachers knew?
I think with engaging just youth in general, it's just, again, this is having that sit down. And I know there's a lot of teachers out there that will have that sit down, but it's also practicing humility, practicing just actually caring about what this youth is going through. But I'd also like for, because I know our focus is always mental health, right? I would also like to see where teachers are getting trained around, mental health and more of like, again, strength-based approaches and working with youth. It's just like when you look at a youth, it's like, okay, how can I empower this young person to be the best person that they can be?
Yeah. Oh, and I think that's so important. And I think there are a lot of teachers out there who do want to know more about mental health and want to know more about how to engage students, but aren't sure where to start.
Yeah, well, I won't even lie with you. Just doing this work, it's just like, I don't know. It's more of like, I'm a youth worker as well, and it's like I don't know how to work with the youth. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what to say. And it's just kind of it's something you throw yourself into. And I think a lot of the work that I do is I put a lot of my heart into the work, and it's just made it so much more better and so much more, I guess, more quality of life within myself. And so every day it's just like, okay, I know I have a lot of anxiety. I know I have a lot of stuff that I have to take care of, but it's just like, always remember that my heart's into this work, and that, I'm always like, everything that I do is for the youth within the community, but even nationally within this project.
Yeah. In this entrepreneurship entrepreneurship group that I'm a part of, we talk about your why, and your why is kind of like your mission. Your why is like what gets you up in the morning. And what we often say is like, your why should make you cry, which is basically the idea that the reason that you're doing these things should be so important to you and so like poignant and so much a part of like, again, what gets you up in the morning that it should make you cry. I'm not so much with the crying, but it sounds like you do have that really solid connection with like, I'm doing this work with a mission and with a purpose. And I think that's really incredible. It reminds me of, I got a message the other day of, I teach mental health first aid, and someone messaged me to say, I used my mental health first aid skills and I was able to like help save someone's life. And to me, that was like, oh, like that's why I do what I do. And for you to have that feeling like every morning, I think is really, really incredible to, you know, be able to give back to your community and to be able to, again, kind of like with the teacher with tying the shoes and then you tying someone else or helping someone else tie their shoes, is the idea that, you know, it doesn't end with us. Like I don't want to say an obligation because that makes it sound like makes it sound like, you know, something you are obligated to do. But I do feel that we kind of have an obligation to help other people in this world.
Yeah, and it all comes down to your passion, your motive, your move. What moves you, right? And so again, with that whole morning thing, it's just like I always have to try and remember, even especially when I'm having bad days, why am I doing this? You know, why do I get up in the mornings and go into the atmosphere that I do? But again, it's just like I've seen so much within the youth in the community, how a lot of them have changed, and how a lot of them want to just pursue, you know, a more positive lifestyle.
Yeah, and you're giving them, again, strength based. You're giving them the tools that they need to be in order to be able to do that, which I think is really, really incredible. Yeah.
One thing that I should mention, which is really important within this work, is that our site lead, she gives me so much support in the way that we're moving within this project, in terms of like, all right, Cliff, you know, here's the project. All right, now let's work through it, kind of thing. And it's like work it through with the youth and see the direction that it wants to go. And she's there to provide support when she needs to, and just kind of overseeing us. So the way we do it is that we have general youth that come in the youth space and stuff like that. Our core youth, they're ones with the ideas of what they want to do, and, you know, things like that, with like dances and, you know, things that are happening in the youth space. They did a movie night last night, and so I left early so they can take care of that. And then it's just like I would call my, like, I work with another person, Carolyn Gaspar, and so we're more of like the in between the health professionals and the youth, and so it's kind of being that advocate between the both. And so it's just like our site lead giving us that freedom, giving us that support has just been, you know, I think phenomenal. And it's a lot of responsibility, but you know, she really believes in the work that we're doing, and that we're doing, you know, a good job on trying to make this access project a reality within the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it sounds wonderful, Cliff. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about kind of the Access Project at Sturgeon Lake, or other mental health initiatives that you might be involved in?
One thing I want to talk about was that, you know, in my experience with mental health and, you know, trying to get ahead, is always having support systems. It's so important that when you're trying to talk about like identity and who you are as an individual, and, you know, it's always looking at who do I have around me that can support me in trying to be better. You know, and I think sometimes we kind of forget about that. I sometimes forget about that too, but I always go back to it. It's like, the reason why I'm here is because of so many people, again, the site lead, my parents, you know, my friends, you know, and it's just having all these different resources of people to, like, you know, I'm having a bad day kind of thing, or can you give me some advice on this? And, you know, what does this look at going forward? You know, it's always just having those conversations. And I know, I just think it's so important in order to creating a better wellness, is making sure that you have a planned set of like support systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know I would not be here without my support systems either. So that is so important, and that's a really great reminder for us. Thanks, Cliff.
Yeah.
So if someone's, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if someone's looking for more information kind of about either the Access Project, or about specifically the Access Project that you are involved in, how would someone go about doing that?
We actually have a national website, and it's called the accessopenminds.ca. And then for our group out in Sturgeon, we have a Facebook group, and I'm just trying to pull it up here, so I can find it. I think it's Access Sturgeon Lake.
Okay, fabulous. What we'll do, Cliff, is we can throw a link to that in the comments of this video. So if anyone's looking to like that page or find out more information, they can click on it in the comments if that works for you.
All right,
So,
sounds great.
I just want to thank you so much. I can't believe it, but we are pretty much out of time. So I just want to thank you so much for being on this show, and so much for being my very first guest on this show, which I really appreciate. You kind of took the plunge with me. And of course, I also just want to thank you for the work that you do, because it is so important, and everyone is very lucky that you're in the position that you're in.
Oh, I'm just grateful to be a part of it. You know, I just like to be a part of the team and be a part of something that's bigger than myself. You know, and thank you for having me. You know, it's it's been a nice little conversation.
All
and
right.
now hopefully we'll figure out all the bugs and all that stuff.
Yeah, we are learning as we go. So thank you everyone for tuning in. There's been a couple of people who've tuned in for the whole time, and this is also going to be available on my Facebook page. So if you're looking for more information about the work that I do or upcoming Crazy Talk episodes, you can go to facebook.com/leethomasspeaks. Our next Crazy Talk episode will be Saturday, December 9th at 12:30 p.m. Atlantic time. I'll see you there. Take care, everyone.
Bye.